Hey, hope you're well. This is Matthew here. I'm just going to give a quick run through of my double branches run here in case it helps anyone. Just a note on ship usage first of all. I sort of wanted to test Gallant on this track. Well, it's not really a good test seeing as it's already established as the best ship pretty much. But I was curious if it would be good even at my level or if you needed to be some kind of boost or beast at ship boosts to get the most out of it. I think this run goes some way to proving that even at this level it's probably best to switch over. This is by no means the greatest run, it's still ranked 6th on this track, which makes it my second best track, which is kind of mental to me because I do not feel massively good here. So yeah, give Gallant a go if you're on the fence at all. Coming up here, I start chaining at about 650 or so. It's like some people start later. I don't see any reason not to start earlier there. It's not particularly difficult when you're used to chaining with Gallant. Just in case you don't know, the trick to chaining with Gallant is to not hold the opposing trigger in all the way when you're exiting the MTSs. So when I'm doing this, I'm not holding the left trigger in all the way, but I'm holding the right trigger in all the way when I'm exiting these. When it comes to this last little chain, I let go of A because it's just a bit longer than the others. And you could probably chain a bit more here, but I prefer to just straighten up and try to hit this booster. It's important to get this MTS right because if you go all out on this MTS, you will just plow into this left wall more often than not. So it's best to try to feather that MTS coming in here as much as possible, and then it's a lot easier to get some nice clean side attack exits through this corner. That was the most consistent way I could come up with to take this section. If you're a top player, you want to hit several shift boosts on this side, but I couldn't get any real consistency with that. Not that I tried particularly hard. For this section, because it's such a big choke point here, especially with the shift boosts on this path coming up, I found it to be a good idea to just try and get something that's solid and consistent to just get you to this point as often as possible. And like, this is a pretty straightforward strat, even though I would mess it up more often than I'd probably care to admit. When you're in the air here, it's important to try to avoid the booster that just passed, as well as this one, because you don't want to be in boost state when you're going for these shift boosts. And getting a quick 3 there is pretty much the standard at this point, I think. If you're anywhere like maybe top 30 onwards, it's probably what you should be going for. It is a pain to get used to, particularly if you're not terrible or terribly confident or comfortable with off-track shift boosts, but it's just so strong to get through here that, and it's early in the run as well, and it's a one-off. It's pretty much the most difficult part of the run. I think it is worth going 4-3 here. And when it comes to getting them, there's no real trick. It's just a matter of getting comfortable. It's just a matter of getting comfortable getting quick shift boosts. If it helps you, you can grind out Chapter 2 or Trident, both of which I have done in recent years, trying to get better at this stupid technique. But there's no trick to it, unfortunately. That's just all it is. One thing that did help me, at least mentally, was trying to get this ship boost as quickly as possible after this booster. I really saw it as landing and just trying to chain that speed directly into the shift boost, because in a weird way these do feel easier the faster you're going. But that's pretty much the most I could say about that. The MTS afterwards, it's important to leave the MTS very late. In my early attempts I was leaving it early and I would slide about a ton and just lose a load of speed. But if you leave it late, you can get a nice clean exit like this that isn't particularly difficult. The chicane bit's a pain, but it's one of those things that you just need to practice. Unfortunately, it's a little difficult to even get enough speed in the first place to practice it accurately. But when you do, you gradually start to get the hang of it. Obviously, you can see I didn't fully get the hang of it because I still hit a wall. But, you know, what can you do? Slowing down here is another thing. It's just a matter of getting used to. When you're at this kind of speed, it's quite simple. Like, you just need to do the barest minimum brake as you go over kind of the apex of the hill here. Going to the right hand side is also helpful because it just minimizes your likelihood of flying off. When you're at higher speeds, it does become more and more difficult, but you really just can't be greedy here. If you're going at like 1900 or something, or even more, just take the bullet and brake a lot. You don't want to be the guy who threw away a good run here, believe me. This is another MTS where you really want to just feather it. Just don't go all out, hold back a bit, or else you will just get really well acquainted with this wall. And sorry to keep pausing, there's just so much. This bit is actually, I found it a little difficult to get used to. I think the key to getting the little quick turn and getting all the boosters here, I can't even remember if I got it on this lap, is to, let me go back a bit. Like, take the sections so that you're pointing slightly to the right, because then you can do a pretty tight quick turn, which is, to me, is more comfortable to do. Whereas if you're, say, parallel with this booster coming up, and you just have to do like a minuscule quick turn, that's so much more difficult. So if you do this, you can do a pretty sizable quick turn because of your angle here, and I think that helps. Like, obviously it's easier on lap 1 as well. Just do as much chaining here as you're really comfortable with. And this bit, getting the lift off here isn't difficult at all. It's just a matter of, the way I saw it was like hitting the booster. Just wait for the noise to end briefly, and then do an MTS into side attack dive. So I'm pretty sure this is just me holding the right trigger and side attacking. I'm not holding the left trigger as though it was an MTS exit. You get a variety of jumps off this though, and you just need to kind of work with what you get. There's no hard and fast strategy here. You just need to do your best to land and try to get some kind of MTS into this. I found it quite tricky, and I would never really get the speed that I wanted, so I'm not an expert on the strat. I might not even be doing it the best way. By all means, refer to better runners than I. But whatever I'm doing, it still seems faster than just going straight and hitting this. Not that that's a bad strat if you're not comfortable with this. And this is like pretty standard. Like, it's really important to end this lap at a decent speed. You don't need to be flying as this run shows, but you're getting the jump coming up. You want to be starting it with at least some speed. Like, if you plow into a wall here or something, or miss these boosters, it just becomes so much tougher. But ending this lap, like, you can do an MTS, you can just MT from this landing, you can do an MTS with a side attack exit like that. There's a variety of things you can do. Just make sure you're clean, really, is the important thing. Just don't hit walls and hit boosters. So here, I wanted to always be above 1600 after that first boost. That was kind of my mnemonic for thinking, oh, okay, I'm in decent shape, I can make this jump. You can get it when you're even under that level. It just becomes harder and harder, really. But I'll play the jump through so you get an idea. So this is, unfortunately, there's no like simple trick to this jump. It's something that is deceptively difficult, at least in my experience, because if you're anything like me, you'll try to learn this jump and you'll probably get it within your first few attempts. But then you'll feel you're doing the same thing and you don't get it. And it was a real battle for me to get, real consistency with this jump. Like, I really did have to plow this out in practice quite a bit. It's very much worth referring to other runs because Sonic does it a bit differently. I think FIFA does it a bit differently. And Brave with Fat Shark does it completely differently. And you just need to bash out something that's comfortable for you. For my money, my strat was to hit the left-hand side of the booster, probably getting the edge boost, and then MTSing, starting the MTS pretty much as I hit the booster. But you could even copy the strat and maybe not get it because it's going to depend on the exact manner of your MTS as well, because that'll dictate where you hit the wall and at what angle you hit the wall. Both the jumps in this run went fine, but you can get some dodgy looking ones that you can still salvage. Like sometimes you'll hit this wall, pop in the air here, but you go really short and left. And if that happens you just can level out and glide the rest of the way and land in the energy refill. As is probably obvious, you can't see much when you're flying through the air here, but you can see the energy refill. That's 100% your rock and all this. Like, that's just what you need to look out for every time. And you get some leeway either side of this you can land. There's nothing dodgy going on, like if you land in a certain spot, you're just going to blow up or something, at least not in my experience. So just aim for this, and yeah, you just need to grind it out in practice and find something that works for you. I'm just glad to at least commit a run to the bank of runs, really, that has another method, so it's another reference at least to help you. And when you're landing here, sometimes you land really early, in which case it's almost definitely best to boost. I don't think I boosted into the landing here. It might have been better to do so. The key really is to make sure if you're boosting into the landing, your boost ends before your first shift boost. So, I don't know if this is just a Gallon thing. I unfortunately think it is a Gallon thing. It's kind of easy to slip off this track when you're just doing an innocuous stick movement. And this is what happened here. I was just trying to edge myself towards the edge of the track, and the ship just slipped, and I had no chance of getting a ship boost. Fortunately, this backup exists, and the fact that I took it so comfortably sort of shows how often this happened to me. But luckily I got what I was going for in lap 3, so I can at least talk you through it then. But I mean, this lap time on lap 2, it was still okay. It kind of suggests that, you know, this track isn't necessarily all about the shift boost, at least before a certain level. But otherwise, this is much the same as lap 2, just slowing down a lot more, boosting here. I'm shy to this corner boost laps, so I can't really say much. The top players, what you see they'll do is they will exit this MTS and immediately boost. And this makes getting this turn even harder for me. I tried to delay the boost a bit and I still kind of messed up. And what would happen is I would just be taking this corner sloppily, but I would get the shift boost more often than not. So that just kind of papered over the cracks. I don't really recommend doing this, I don't think. I believe what Sonic does is he takes this corner pretty wide and does a very tight quick turn to sort of avoid taking off here. And that way he can hit the boosters as well. But like I say, I can't really say much here because this is what I do. And it just happened to work out here. Like that shift boost, you shouldn't be relying on it because it can just throw you at all sorts of angles and you'll miss boosters afterwards and everything. Right. Coming up here, I thought this would be so difficult. I didn't even want to try it until Sonic told me it isn't that bad. This glide around here, it's really no big deal. It's no big deal at all. The important thing, and what Sonic said to me, is that you want to be 1700 to 1799. So basically in the 1700s when you're lifting off here. If you're slower, you'll just fly off into oblivion. If you're faster, that has never happened to me, so I don't know what happens. But you want to be going around this speed, and it's pretty easy to manipulate that kind of speed. Because this is me just taking this section pretty normally and just throwing in a boost. Not very precise at all. You can do a little MTS and then boost as well. That's what Sonic does. He might do that because he's going really fast and he wants to slow down a bit. But you want to get to that kind of speed, and here you're just kind of holding up a little bit. The way I see it and the way Sonic kind of described it to me was you're just kind of trying to maintain a separation from the track, really. You're just following the shape of the track. So it's a pretty natural stick movement. What happened to me here is I think I ended up a bit too close to the track, so maybe I held up a bit too much, and that's why I hit it and then take off like this. But you can see here, even this isn't that dangerous. You can still just land, and you're okay. And the faster you're going here, the kind of more annoying it is because it's harder to get energy. but it's definitely worth going all out to make the most of this energy refill, even if it means just emptying through it, which is what the top runners do. We're on to lap 3, which is more of the same. Like I said, hit that edge boost, MTS, as soon as I'm hitting it. Like, or just starting maybe very slightly afterwards. This time I got what I was going for. So 1, 2, 3. Like, you could do so much more here, even at my level, but this is the most consistent thing I could come up with. The top runners will generally get, at the very least, one here on the left before this booster comes up, one just after it, and then another couple. I could not get any consistency with getting these left-hand ones. They were just a bit too iffy for me. Maybe it just didn't click with me, but it's definitely worth trying it out. Because this, I'm not sure anyone else sticks to the right like this. At least the people who get the jump. So I'm assuming it's not the best strat. With this one on the right-hand side, if you go too early, you just slide off. That's my experience. So I delay this to pretty soon before that booster, before getting the first one. Then the second, the third. Like these... You would not believe how straightforward these shift boosts are. The hard thing is just not sliding off like I did in lap 2. And there's even a really obvious improvement here of just getting a shift boost on the left in this section, which really shouldn't be too difficult either. I didn't do it this run because, I mean, I wanted to finish some runs. I finished literally 2 runs in about a week of attempts on this track. So I'll just play that section through. And then boost empty. Obviously not a bad idea. And I'm not sure there's anything else new before the end of this. When you're through that part, I mean, you should really be home safe. There's nothing else terribly difficult. You can see me again. I'm just getting lucky here, really. I needed to learn this corner properly, and I just didn't. Don't be like me. Learn this corner properly. Like, I was in no real danger of flying off there. But you can see how I, like, missed boosters because I didn't take this properly. And had to use up a boost. So, my speed here, you can see 1700s, everything is good. And that's, I mean, that's just a thing of beauty. I hate to sound smug, but, I mean, this is just gorgeous to me. That's like gotta be one of my favorite strats in the game when you pull it off. And yeah, I think that's everything. Sorry if that was rambling. As a last note on this track, I'm sorry if so much of what I said just came off as you need to get a feel for it. But to me, this track, more than any other, really benefits from proper, focused practice. Nobody likes to do it, but you need to just boot up practice mode and put in some hours on this track. Otherwise, it's going to be even more of a nightmare than it is. It's really hard to finish a run on this track, so you need to try to get as consistent as possible with all the things you're taking on. And yeah, I think that's it. Sorry if I missed anything important. By all means, shout at me if you want to know anything more. And yeah, thanks for watching. Take care.